Hey everybody, I'm Antonio and welcome to Back at the Ranch. So we're back at the chill spot. Got Albert with us.
Hey guys, Albert.
And Betty.
And Betty.
Betty made a new friend. She's like, oh, he'll pet me. He'll pet me. So yeah, we're here to recap our last adventure at the ranch. Hopefully some of you guys have already seen the archery turkey hunt. And if you haven't, click right up there because it's pretty cool. It's a lengthy one, but it's a fun one, I'll tell you. So something else happened after that we're going to get to in a minute, but before we get into it, what'd you think about that hunt, Albert?
Wow. I like the fact that you've got deer coming in, especially during this time. It's important to keep them used to a certain area. We got to see 4 different does. I think that was really cool. I think it's unbelievable. We snuck up on one.
That was pretty cool.
The way we were packed up through wet grass within 20 yards, bow shot. During hunting season, that's a good shot for hunting season right there.
Too bad it wasn't deer season though.
I know. It would have been cool to get one like that. Didn't see any hogs, but you know they're there. You can see the sign.
Give the whole video away.
All right, my bad. It was, but it was cool. Cool experience. Cool encounters with some of the animals there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off there, but yeah. So some people haven't watched it, but you really haven't given much away, So in a nutshell, we started out with the intent of hog hunting, but we knew that if there was no hog, turkey was going to be the backup. So as Albert just mentioned, there was no hogs that morning, but it was still a very interesting morning. As I mentioned, we did sneak up on some deer, so we want to see how that turned out. Again, go watch that video. But do finish watching this one first. Don't take off yet, right? We got some other things to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great morning. I think one of the cool things about that trip that stuck with me, actually after the turkey hunt, we went on a rabbit hunt, right?
Yeah.
We were hungry. I forgot the bacon and eggs.
So no bacon and eggs.
That's a real spoiler at the end, right? I forgot the bacon and eggs. And Albert encouraged me to do a little rabbit hunt. So he had his bow with him. I had my bow with me, and we set out, right? My goal, my intent there was to record that for you guys, and I did. I recorded it. Unfortunately, the camera was in time-lapse mode. And you know what I'll do? I'll play that video in the bottom right-hand corner. It's going to play really fast because it's a time lapse. So one of these corners, maybe up at the top, it'll be here, so you guys can kind of see the walkthrough. But Albert, during that rabbit hunt, you told a couple of really cool stories that I really wish I got on camera. So usually when somebody tells a story, it's not the same when you tell it the second time. And being that we were in the environment and everything else, it really gave it a lot of feeling. But I'd like you to repeat that story.
Okay.
But before you do, so we went on that rabbit hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's playing. It probably already finished playing by now because it was really, really fast. Long story short, we saw 2 rabbit, right?
You saw 2 rabbit.
You never saw the
I
first
saw
one.
one.
You saw the first one?
No, I didn't see the first one.
You saw the second one.
I saw the second one.
Right. So
Yeah.
First rabbit, we're actually doing some B-roll, and he's got the camera on me. And as I'm walking past, I'm like, ooh, rabbit. I saw where it went, so we chased after it. No luck finding it, though.
Do you think... So that rabbit didn't come out to you, and since we kind of went off in a direction, tried to corral it, it either got past me super fast and I didn't see it run, or it went straight between us.
Or it could have been sitting under.
Think it was the same one, or sitting under a tree?
No, it was definitely a different rabbit because this other one. So I passed you. The rabbit was probably about 15 yards behind you, not too far away, within shooting range, and it just went across the sendero and in between some brush, right? So I said, ooh, rabbit. And he turns around and said, look, go around that way, which I wait for him to get behind the bushes where I saw it. I came around the other side hoping to scare it towards him, but we never saw it.
No, I didn't see it.
So you were in the brush and I'm still on the sendero. So I figured, well, let me keep walking and we'll probably meet up in the next sendero. Didn't happen though. You ended up having to walk all the way around.
Yeah, the brush got pretty thick there. I couldn't keep going.
Yeah, it's again, the ranch is, it still needs a lot of work. But yeah, so I walked down to the end of the sendero to an area that we call the Y. and another rabbit pops out. Now, I know how to use my bow. I promise. It's been a while. I don't use my bow very often.
Yeah, in your defense, okay, so you haven't used your bow in a while, number one. Number two, it's a compound bow.
Yeah.
Compound bows for a 10, 15-yard shot, that's the tough shot. In a recurve, it's much easier to do.
It's a tough shot.
A recurve, much easier. Up close, compound's easier, 20, 30, 40, so forth.
Yeah. So that rabbit actually came out maybe 10 yards in front of me, like almost like twice the distance of where the camera's at. And he just looked right at me. I'm like, oh, he's mine. He's mine. And I draw, and I do have the regular motion. I had another camera up on the front of my bow. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
So I do have the video, and I'll post that here next. I draw and I release, and it hits like 2 or 3 inches in front of him, and he jumps, and it slides right under him. I'm like, ah. And he hops away, and I'm thinking, all right, he's gone. And I'm walking up to recover my arrow. And as I'm doing that, he's sitting about 3 or 4 feet over behind a little push from my arrow. I'm like, oh, Albert. That's when I started calling you over. So at that point, did you see?
I thought you shot it twice.
So you're right. I did shoot a second time. Okay. He went out.
Then he came back.
He came back, sat on top of the arrow that I had just shot.
Wow.
I shot again, and this time I missed him again, like by 2 or 3 inches, but it was to the side, so it hit a little bit behind him.
Yeah.
Then he hopped off under that tree a second time to the same spot, and that's when I started calling you.
Yeah, I was further down this way, towards that thicker brush area. So I came back to you, and when I finally got to that spot, I did see the rabbit, but it was behind a lot of bush and some thick brushes, and there's no way I could squeeze an arrow through that. No way.
But by the time
if it
you
hit
got
something,
there,
it's gonna ricochet. I might lose an arrow. It wasn't. It wasn't an easy shot. Wasn't a good shot to take either. So.
Yeah, but I think when I was calling you, had you kind of swung around, he would have been in a perfect spot. But by the time you realized what I was telling you, he had already hopped away, and he was at a good distance. But yeah, it was kind of like a little tunnel, basically, right?
Yeah,
like
I could see a little tunnel there, and then he moved to the left a little bit. So he wasn't like in that little game trail, if you will, where you had a shooting lane. He was like to the left of it. So. Yeah.
And this is, by the way, like what was it, like 1 in the afternoon, maybe? It was pretty late.
11,
late in the morning,
noonish.
Late in the morning, early afternoon. I want to say it was between 12 and 1.
Yeah.
Because we've been walking for a while.
The turkey.
That was
at around 10:16, right?
No, so I've seen that video so many times when I was editing. 10:16, the turkey was walking around the feeder.
Right.
That's not a spoiler. There was a turkey.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
And then he walked over here, maybe gave us another 20 minutes worth of activity.
I want to say it was 11 o'clock. This part of the video didn't make the cut. But when I stopped recording one of the videos, I think it was the camera I had on me, I said, well, it's 11 o'clock. Let's go see what Albert has to say. And I stopped that video. It didn't make the cut of the video, but I do remember saying it was about 11.
Okay, cool.
So we must have sat there for a good 2 hours, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Like 9, 10, about 2 hours, give or take. So,
about right.
So we walked back to the camp. We walked around the long way. We hit the sendero. So I want to say we got back to camp no later than 1. Right? So it was about a 1 or 2 hour walk looking for rabbit. So it was fun. Unfortunately, I'm the only one that saw rabbit. I haven't practiced in a while. So I don't know, this channel's kind of turning into a Antonio's misadventures, like of missing game. So
adventures, not missing adventures.
Yeah, it's funny I say that. I actually just not wrapped up, but I'm in the process of editing another video. My daughter and I actually went fishing. So that one actually will post soon. If you're interested in fishing, come on back. We'll have that one in a couple of weeks for you.
I just recently, just as a little time out here, I traded one of my longbows back to one of my buddies who really wanted that longbow. Hey Brian, hope you're watching. And he was selling a fly rod.
Oh, that's right. You told me about that.
Yeah. So I said, hey, I'll trade you the bow back plus cash. Because the fly rod's 150, bow like 400. So like, okay, cool. He says, man, but you're gonna need a reel and you need to be string. I said, I don't know anything about that. I says, whatever cash you owe me, buy that. He says, okay, I'll buy the reel, I'll buy the line, I'll get you some flies. and lessons. He said,
Nice.
okay, cool. So that's in the works. I already have the complete set at my house. So I need to set some time to go set up with Brian and say, hey, you know what? How do you do this thing? Show me how to do this thing. Probably at a local pond over here where there's a catch and release.
Yeah.
There's actually some trout or bass in there.
Yeah.
Some freshwater. So I think that'd be a good spot.
I know the place you're talking about. They're in McAllen, not downtown, but in McAllen. Like
in one of the
city.
parks.
Is it Fireman's Park?
Fireman's Park.
One?
Yeah. So probably, take cameras out there and show the whole process as well.
Definitely.
From a rookie fly fisherman right here. Maybe you want to join in the fray and start casting out there.
I've never used a fly rod, so I'm just a regular, open face reel or a bait caster. That's what I use.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
But yeah, I was saying, my daughter and I went fishing yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it was fun. We got to see a lot, a little educational for her as well. And that fishing trip didn't go quite as planned, but the good news is it's a catch, clean, cook, and we did catch, we did clean, and we cooked today. So it was successful, depending on your point of view. But yeah, enough about that. Back to the rabbit. We walked around.
Yeah.
Didn't get any rabbit. We came back. We were hungry. Ended up at Whataburger, by the way, after we left the ranch.
Maybe settle for Whataburger.
But I do want you to tell the story. Actually, you had two stories, if I recall. But I want you to tell the story about your family and your family's ranch history in Texas. Because that's what this channel's about, right? Talking about ranches, visiting ranches. And you've got a great story to tell. But before we do that, I know you said you're new to whiskey.
Yeah.
You like whiskey. Let me ask you this. What's your way of drinking whiskey?
So I guess I have to go back to the kind of beer that I like. And one of my favorite beers is Arrogant Bastard, right? And that's people call it bitter. People call it horrendous. It is a thick beer, right? It is a heavy beer, but you don't chug that. You just cannot.
It's a sipper.
It's a sipper, right?
I've
That's
had it
literally
before.
what it is.
I don't have it too often.
You
but
take it easy on it, right? Because if you don't, you'll end up on the floor or something, right? So
been there.
Yeah, so that's the way I like to drink alcohol. If I do drink, beer is going to be like that. Wine, same thing. And whiskey, the rare occasion I do have it, it's the same.
So you like to sip? You're not a mixer or anything like that?
No. As a matter of fact, the other day I did have a mixed whiskey drink. I think the bartender called it an old-fashioned.
Old-fashions are great. They're on the sweet side.
Yeah, and that's the problem I had with it, is that it was too sweet. I don't like too sweet. When I go with wine, it's got to be dry. And so all the syrups you put in it,
you like
it didn't
citrus,
sit well.
Sour, like lemons and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, try a whiskey sour one of these days. Maybe I'll make you one. So it's basically a lemonade with whiskey, but it's
nice.
It's different. You like
that'll work.
So it sounds like you like to drink whiskey straight up.
Yeah. Straight up for sure.
So straight up. I want to correct myself on that, because some whiskey enthusiasts are probably looking at this and saying, straight up, you're not drinking it straight up, you're drinking it neat, which is what we're about to do. So straight up is actually chilled, if you will. So you put the whiskey in a shaker with some ice, you shake it, and then you pour it out. That's straight up. So it's actually a little bit watered down and chilled, which totally changes the flavor and the texture, because whiskey does have texture when it comes to the oils. What we're going to do tonight is what's called neat. So it's literally straight out of the bottle.
Okay.
And we're gonna
I've been saying it wrong the whole time then. I like it neat.
I used to do that as well, so don't feel bad, So again, you're learning, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a whiskey expert either. I'm still learning, but I have been drinking whiskey for a while, and I've had my fair share of whiskeys. There's a bunch of different types. We won't get into that. That's a totally different video, though.
Yeah, and also just I like to add this though, is that when it comes to drinking, whether it be beer or wine or whiskey or bourbon in this case, I've always wanted to look for someone to give me a layman's version of, right? In other words, say, if you like dark beers, you like this whiskey. If you like light beers, if you like to chug stuff, you like this. Something like that. I can.
I've never related whiskey to beer, but I hear what you're saying.
Right.
To me, they're two totally different things. When I get a beer, I just want a good, crisp tasting beer that tastes great cold, which really, the colder it is, the less you taste the flavor, and that goes for almost every type of drink. I'm not picky about my beer, but I want it to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like Arrogant Bastard I've had before. I enjoy it, but I have to be in the mood for it. Whereas there's other beers out there that I can just grab them.
Yeah, not too many people enjoy that one. As a matter of fact, once I found out that my current girl, that she liked Arrogant Bastard, I said, okay, she's a keeper.
Gotcha.
Still with her.
That's an interesting one. I wish my wife liked whiskey, but she's a tequila woman, so it's not a bad thing.
Oh, my girl's a tequila woman too.
But here's what I got for you. We didn't get a rabbit, but I got a dead rabbit for you.
That's a dead rabbit.
Dead rabbit Irish.
That'll work.
Right. So
different kind of dead rabbit.
Dead rabbit is an Irish. It's actually it's named after old Irish street gangs out of like Manhattan, New York area.
Really?
I don't even know, the 1800s somewhere, 1840s or 1850s. There's also
Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York, exactly. You know, so there's also a bar, and I think that the owners of the bar had something to do with this whiskey as well. I don't know all the history of it. I just know a little bit from what I've learned over the time. But it is a good Irish whiskey, and they did something different with this one. So I know you're learning whiskeys, but Irish whiskeys are usually in what they call a new oak barrel, right? But a new oak to them is like a barrel that's already been used for bourbon or something else, and then they use it. But they're using virgin oak for these, so it's never been used. So it's a little bit different than most Irish. So don't know if you've ever had Irish before, but this is a little bit unique. If you like this, I encourage you to try other Irish whiskeys.
Cool.
So with that said, I'm gonna pour. We'll do it my style.
Just do your style.
And you let me know what you think. We'll get into your story here in a second as well. That's not too much for you, by the way.
Nah.
So here you go, sir.
Thanks, sir.
So first of all, I know I talked to you about this a little bit off camera. Everybody enjoys whiskey differently, you know, and there's really no wrong way to enjoy it. My way's my way. I tell people how I do it. By the way, my beard keeps flying everywhere. I talked about EDC in the last one. Here's another one of my EDCs. I always carry a little hair clip. Because on windy days like this, it comes in handy. So I'm a photographer. I do a lot of sports and outdoor work as well. So when you're out in the field doing photography, if it's windy, that clip comes in very handy. But anyway, that's off topic. Everybody enjoys your whiskey a different way. Some people enjoy different types of whiskey versus others. You know, you've got Irish, you've got Scotch, you've got rye, you've got bourbons, you have blends of different of the ones I just mentioned. And some people like some people like all, some people like none. This is my way of drinking it. So first of all, I look at the color. The color itself doesn't make the whiskey better or worse, but typically you can kind of gauge the profile. Like an Irish, there's some that are darker than others. Usually the darker they are, the longer that they've been aged is what it is, right? So I usually look at the colors and like to comment about it. So this one is, I'll let you describe it. What would you describe that color as?
Wow, it's like a very light amber.
Very light amber.
Like a...
That's exactly what I was going to say. And it's literally almost like if you get a piece of amber, hold it up to the light. That's the color you're getting right there, right? It's a very light.
Very light.
And the reason for that is this is a fairly young whiskey. I want to say it's about a 5-year-old, if I recall correctly, which, by the way, I'm going to put this right here so the viewers can see the front of that bottle. I want to say it's a 5-year-old. I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me on it. Again, I'm not an expert. But usually you can tell how old they are just by looking at it, even if it doesn't say it on the bottle, because there are some bottles that they don't have an age statement because they might be a blend of different ages. So there are some whiskeys that maybe they were 10-year-old and they got popular as a 10-year-old. Well, they ran out of the 10-year-old line. They don't have enough to make moving forward. So what they do is they blend younger whiskeys, maybe with some 10-year-olds, to get that profile, to get that same or similar flavor. They keep the same name, the same bottle, the same style, but that number falls off. But it still might have some 10-year-old in there. It might have some 15, 20-year-old. You don't know. It's what did the master distiller basically decide goes in there, right? So looking at it, again, you can kind of tell the age. That's not always indicative of age, though. Sometimes it's a type of whiskey. So second, the nose, the smell, right? Everybody gets something different. I'll let you go first on this one. This fire making it a little bit difficult for me because it throws the fumes off. I'll say this, it's light. It's not very overpowering.
It is not overpowering at all. It's very faint. Actually, to me, it's faint.
The fact that we're outside also, by the way, affects that because those fumes are evaporating and blowing around and everything. Whereas if you're indoors, you get a little bit more. But I've got something in mind. I don't want to influence your thought.
No, man, you go ahead because I have nothing in mind. How to describe this? It's too faint for me.
I am getting a light oak out of it. Not oak, kind of a wood, like a wood 10 scent out of it. But it's sweet. Have you ever sanded? I'm trying to remember the name of the wood now. It eludes me. So in Spanish, it's Palo Santo.
Yeah.
So Palo Santo.
Yeah, Palo
Have you
Santo.
ever sanded Palo Santo?
No, I never sanded it.
So you ever sand it?
Only burned it.
It has. So it's basically the same thing. So you burn it. What does it smell like to you?
Man, like Palo Santo.
So let's put it this way.
It's a tough one.
Palo Santo is used to make incense, and if you burn the purest form of that incense, it's kind of a sweet smell to it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not super sweet like sugar, but
No.
it's like a sweet wood versus a sour wood, if you will.
Okay.
So that's what I'm getting, like
Okay.
a sweet wood, almost like a brown sugar scent out of it.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I can see the brown sugar.
You get it?
I can see the brown sugar.
So here's the thing about this, and I think I said this on my last video as well. It's not so much what does it smell like, but what does that smell remind you of? Where does it take you back? What memory does it bring up? Because every whiskey has a different scent, and it might not smell like something specific, but it's going to smell like something that reminds you of something. So for me, I work on guitars as well. So Palo Santo is used for fretboards. It's a very dense wood. So I have sanded my fair share of Palo Santo, right? I still can't remember what it's called.
You know what I was going to say?
It's rosewood.
Rosewood?
Rosewood is Palo Santo.
Oh, I was going to say fresh sawdust.
So okay, sawdust, right? So you're still getting the woods out of it.
Yeah.
So. But to me, it's sweet, a little bit of brown sugar. And there's more there too, but again, this fire and the wind's not helping me out. But so, third, taste. Here's what I recommend. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, no worries. First sip you take a very light sip, just enough to like wet the front of your tongue. Like almost like you're drinking a hot cup of coffee, right?
Okay.
So hot cup of coffee, you're not going to take a big
No,
gulp.
I'm not.
Nice and easy. Coat your mouth. You know, of course, swallow it eventually. And just get those initial flavors. And then after that, we're going to go in for a second one a few seconds later. You're going to find that after that first one, the oils coat your tongue. Your taste buds adjust to it. And on the second one, the flavor is going to be different. Might be better, might be worse. You know, everybody's different. So with that being said, let's go for that first one. I'll let you go first. What are you getting now off that?
Spicy for sure.
Spicy. This is a low proof, by the way. This is, I think it's 40 or 50%. Not a 50%, sorry, 40 or 45%. 44%. 44%, which makes it an 88 proof. Right?
Okay.
So it's not the lightest, but it's up there.
Yeah.
So, but spiciness for sure.
Yeah.
I'm getting spicy out of it. What would you describe that spice as? so tempted.
Have you ever had turmeric?
Turmeric?
Turmeric.
I have not.
No. That's what I would equate it to. The closest thing I've had to what this tastes like.
What is turmeric? Is it a fruit, a vegetable?
It's like an Indian spice.
Okay, so no, the only Indian spice I've had is, of course, curry, which everybody knows. But no, turmeric I've never heard of. So I cannot relate to that, but that's fine.
That's what I would equate it to.
Because that's what it took you to, right?
Right.
So I'm getting spice, and for me, it's... So I know the last one I tried, I said cinnamon. And I sit in there like, it's cinnamon, but I can't place it. Well, I finally placed it because I kept drinking that night. It was like, you ever had those red hot cinnamon candies? Those little, that's what it was. I was like, oh, that's what it is, because it was a sweet cinnamon.
Okay.
This, on the other hand, I'm getting that cinnamon. But you've ever gotten a cinnamon stick and just sucked on it? You get more of a wood, dry, it's more of a dry flavor, not a... So when I say dry, I don't mean like physically dry. I mean like when you describe a wine, a dry wine is not sweet, right? So you have sweet wines and you have dry wines. So that cinnamon is more of a dry cinnamon, a dry spice versus a sweet spice, which the red hots are more of a sweet spice. It's still cinnamon, but it's sweet versus not sweet. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, well, okay, so the sweet cinnamon talking about has sugars in it.
Right.
The dry cinnamon does not.
Does not. It's just straight up cinnamon, and you taste the tree, but you taste the spice. That was my initial.
Yeah.
So
I could see the cinnamon as well, because it's got that little tangy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's spicy, and I don't want to say bitter, but again, have you ever gotten like a green piece of wood and you suck on a green piece of wood, which I do that at the ranch often. I'll just grab it and start chewing on a piece of wood. Most woods have a bitter flavor to it. Most, not all. That's what I'm getting out of that. It's kind of a bitter, dry, but spicy cinnamon spice at the same time. Now, I was about to say, we've been talking about that first sip for a couple of minutes now. It seems like we just started, but it's been a few minutes. So let's go in for the second one, and those oils have coated. Let's see what's different about the second one. I'm gonna go for a third. I need a little bit more. That was too small a sip.
Man, I could definitely taste the oak on that one now. That was definitely a richer experience than the first.
I agree with the oak. And I wouldn't describe it as oak, but it's a wood.
Yeah.
Like it's a wood. And again, I'm saying that because I've had other bourbons or other whiskeys that are very oak heavy. Like they're double oaked, right? So this does have that oak wood flavor to it, but it's not very oaky, if that makes sense, right? But I'll tell you this. Did you get that cinnamon the second time?
No.
Did you get anything spicy the second time?
No.
What happened?
Hey, it just, like I said, a richer, smoother.
It got smoother, right?
It did.
That second one got smoother because we let that tongue
the second sip was, hey, you can't have it in mind. The second sip was definitely smoother. Like I said, it was richer. I could taste some more earthy, woody, oaky.
That's the perfect
type
word.
of a taste, yeah.
So I got the earthy as well, and I picked up a little bit of the sweet now, right? And for me, it was a little bit of that, like a brown sugar sweetness, and it was more so on the back of the tongue than the front. The front, I think I get a little bit more spice in the back. So I already went for a third one. If you want to go look for that sweetness, feel free to. Oh, I got Kool-Aid on the nose there for a second, like just no sugar. Just, you ever smelled Kool-Aid? This like a sour. I got that. Sour fruit is what it is. On the nose. So where you
the back end, man, it is a lot smoother.
It's smoother.
Yeah.
Do you get more sweet or less sweet?
To me, it's just getting more earthy. I get no sweet. I don't taste any sweet, just earthy, like a neutral kind of a flavor.
I agree with you. And when I'm saying sweet, I don't mean like, oh, it got so sweet all of a sudden. It's still dry, right? Again, dry being not too sweet. It's earthy, but for me at least, and everybody's taste buds are different.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I get a little bit sweeter, but not sweet as in,
okay.
Like the last one I had, wild turkey rib rib, that was sweet. More than welcome to try it before you leave, by the way. But here's where I'm at. We've had a couple of sips already. By the way, I didn't comment on the legs. I mentioned to you earlier off camera that the last one I had great legs. You said, what are legs? So this is a Glencairn, by the way, the glass, the type of glass, the purpose of this glass, narrow on the top, so it'll bring the fumes closer together so you can get more of this. So it's more to help the nose. It's more of a sniffer glass. But when you switch that around and you stop, you look at it, it washes down, but the oils kind of stick to the sides, and you see those streaks? That's what we call legs. So the legs on this are pretty thin, literally narrow, right? And they disappear fast, and they tend to blend into each other. So it's not very oil heavy, right? So that kind of equates to the flavor doesn't stay with you very long, and that's kind of typical of Irish whiskeys, right? The last Irish that I did, Grey Coast, click here if you haven't seen that video, by the way. It was kind of the same way, right? So that the legs on this are not super defined, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It just kind of gives you an idea of what you can expect with how long that flavor is going to last and stay with you.
Okay.
Right. So I like to put mine down at this time. You're more than welcome to keep drinking, but I put mine down and I'll talk for a while. When I say talk, like whoever's here, they'll even ask me, "You're not drinking anymore?" I'm like, I'll get to it in a second. Once I get back to it, the flavor's different because now I've had a couple of sips. I want to let my taste buds adjust to what just happened. And I go back to it and I get a totally different experience the third time around. And after that, it kind of stays pretty consistent. And I just start drinking after that. So, but now we're going to let that sit. Let me get comfortable here. My knife, by the way, today's EDC, my pockets are empty, by the way. Today's EDC, I am carrying an old timer. So this is one of my dailies here at the house because it's cheap. If I need to rip something up with it, it doesn't hurt my feelings if I damage it. You have anything on you today?
No, man, I got my keys to my vehicle with my Leatherman multi-tool here.
Oh, that's a cool little keychain.
Yeah.
What's that? A wrench, a bottle opener.
It's whatever you need.
Carabiner, a screwdriver. I don't know what this other side is. Oh, it's another wrench.
Hex.
It's got like 4 wrenches on it.
Yeah, hex also. And of course my Leatherman signal.
Oh, sweet. Is that what you were trying to light this with a minute ago?
I was trying to. I never used that little
like fire starter.
Yeah.
I forget. It's,
I forget what it's
I can't
called.
remember the name of it.
Me neither.
It's a fire starter little flint.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be able to start fires like I went on the woods.
Well, I saw you like sparking down. Like, what the heck's he doing?
That thing was wet. Plus, it wasn't.
That one won't stay on.
It won't stay on. And of course, I just have my wallet on me.
Cool deal. That's a nice knife right
which
there.
my girl got for me from Oaxaca.
Oh, that is
leather.
A cool
Someone
wallet.
made it over there, and
so that's a handmade wallet.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. She got me one from Italy a couple summers ago, 3 or 4 summers ago, maybe 4 or 5. I wore that one out, and so she went to Oaxaca with her cousin and got me that one.
Cool deal.
Yeah.
So handmade in Mexico, artisans of Mexico. It's tooled, right? Or is that print?
I'm not sure.
It looks like it looks like it's painted on. Sorry to grab you.
Yeah, it might be stamped. I'm not sure.
Cool. It's got some dragons and stuff on it. And some
Yeah,
flowers. That's
literally just from this summer. It still smells like leather. So,
nice.
well, that's almost a year actually.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Good deal. All right, so that's EDC. So that was not planned, by the way. That was just a spur of the moment. I moved and I got stuck on the back of the chair with my knife. Rabbit hunting. Let's get back to the ranch. Back at the ranch. So we start the rabbit hunt. We start walking down the senderos, going around the long way. And I asked you. I know your dad has a ranch, a property in west of the Rio Grande Valley, right? What is that? Roma? Rio Grande City?
Almost in Roma. It's in between. So it's 20 miles north of Rio Grande City.
Okay.
So it'll be east of Roma.
So he's out in the boonies.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, man, I can tell you some stories about DPS and Border Patrol.
I don't know how long viewers will watch, but if you want to talk stories, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah, that'll be another video.
But I asked you when we were hunting. I said, "Hey, tell me about your dad's ranch." I was under the impression he had a sizable ranch, because, you've talked about the ranch before. I'm going to go help my dad. We got to do this. I got to help him with a tractor. We got to move some. I think one time you were moving hay or doing something because he has animals, right? And your story surprised me. I said, what do you mean you don't have a big ranch? Like, what? So we've never talked about this prior to that rabbit hunt. But again, I didn't catch it on audio because we had the time-lapse video. So I want to give you an opportunity to tell that story again.
So, all right. So the portion that my dad lives on now is around 5 acres, right? Before then, it was around 20 acres. Before then, it was around 250 acres.
Is it 250?
250 acres. Before then, it was around 4,000 acres. Before then, it was around 12,000 acres. Before then, it was around 28,000. And before that, it was 43,000 acres.
43,000 acres.
Yeah. Now we're talking about.
I can't even picture that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about generations back. The first Guerra came over from. My name is Albert Guerra, by the way. So came over from Llanes, where we have his baptism papers. I went to go visit that town. Beautiful town.
Llanes is in Mexico.
No, Llanes is in Spain.
In Spain.
Yeah, northern
Excuse
Spain.
my ignorance.
Yeah, it's in northern Spain, and we went to the church where he was baptized, Antonio Guerra Cañamar. Right, we went to that building still standing. Right, so we went to go see it. Stepped inside, took pictures. The little baptism thing is still there. It's just phenomenal, historical. It's old. This was back in 1609, I think it was.
Now, I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to say this is, we were hunting, so we were whispering, and we had a lot of distractions. This is getting much more interesting because you're getting into some details, I think, right now that you didn't back then when we were back at the ranch. Because we were hunting, right? Yeah. We were distracted. Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I'm hearing some of this for the first time is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So well, to get back to why it's only 5 acres right now, it's a long story. So I'm taking in a nutshell, right? So 1609 was baptized. 1629, he was in the armed forces, and he sailed across over to Cuba, and then Veracruz, and then Mexico City. In Mexico City, he married a woman there that was half Spanish, half native, right? And then the family grew from there. Wow. And they traveled up north. Eventually into Monterrey, and eventually into where my dad is now, which all that was...
Mexico, yeah.
Well, it was Mexico, but that was part of the original 43,000 acres. It was what they used to call porciones, given from the King of Spain over to the soldiers based on what they had done. Right. So he ended up with all that property down there at that time, and of course through generations, everything gets whittled down, right? So it must have been talking about the early 1700s, maybe.
Wow.
When they got there, they've been part of that area, part of Mexico, part of Spain, part of Mexico again, part of the Republic of the Rio Grande, part of the country of Texas, then part of the southern of the Union. Actually, one of my forefathers got paid in Confederate money because he would capture the horses left behind by the Spaniards and sell them to the Confederate army. And so he became a citizen.
It's funny you mentioned the Confederates because a lot of people don't know that a lot of the Civil War was fought down here.
Yep.
And the video I'm working on, I give a little bit of that history out at Palmito Ranch. So we visited Palmito Ranch, which is actually the site of the last battle of the Civil War.
Okay. So, are you going to visit the Robert E. Lee House?
That's a great question. I didn't realize there was a Robert E. Lee House down here.
That is in Rio Grande City at Ringgold, Fort Ringgold, actually.
We need to check that one out.
And so Fort Ringgold is where I went to school, in elementary and middle school.
Nice.
and that house is there protected, and all the students can just walk up and see it. We had no concept or perspective to what it meant to have the house of Robert E. Lee, where he stayed when he was down here. Right, it's just standing there.
Yeah.
And I think my cousin, Dr. Guerra, she has something to do with the society to keep all that alive down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's some of that in our family as well, which I'm not going to get into on this conversation, but our family history on my mom's side goes back many generations as well, and there are individuals in our family, distant family, that we don't associate with just because we've never met them, but they do something similar, for our side, the Navarro side of the family. But again, that's a discussion for another video. But I tell you what, real quick, I want to come back to your story because I know there's a lot more to it that you've already told me. But before we get to your story, I want to get to the Republic of the Rio Grande, because that's something a lot of people don't know about. But before we get to that, you've been talking for a few minutes. My taste buds are starting to mellow out.
I've been drinking the whole time.
I know you have. I've been watching you going, oh man, I want some. I'm pretty strict with the way I drink my whiskey. Once I go for this, I know I've had more than 3 sips already, but this is what I consider my 3rd sip. After that, you're going to just see me. I might even serve a second one and we keep talking, because this is a good conversation. But yeah, I'm going for that next sip.
Just for the record, I'm having a second one.
Okay. You've been sipping on it. What are you experiencing? I'm going to tell you what I just experienced right now.
I have stayed consistently with the same 2nd and 3rd sips I've had. To me, it stayed
the same.
Stayed the same for me.
Okay. Maybe it's just my palate's different because I've tried so many different whiskeys. And I've mentioned on some of my other videos, I like the higher proof stuff because to me, the flavor evolves. And the reason it evolves, by the way, especially right now I'm next to a fire, so you have a little bit of heat. Alcohol is evaporating, which is mellowing out the whiskey. You've been sipping on it, so you're not noticing it as much. I noticed a big change right now. What just happened for me is I can taste the flavors now and not the alcohol, because a lot of alcohol has evaporated from just sitting here. So I don't want to say watered down, but it almost tasted like just having a sip of water that had some flavor to it. Good flavor. I don't mean water in a bad way, by the way. It's so smooth now, right? So if you do go for another one, I encourage you to let it sit for a while. Maybe drink half of it, let it sit for a while. What you talk, maybe for about 5-10 minutes there.
Yeah.
Come back to it after 5 or 10 minutes and see what's different. It's going to change your experience. And that also helps you learn the whiskey is, do I like it fresh pour? Or do I like it to sit a little while and drink it later? Some people like to drink it with ice, which is fine as well. It's going to change the profile. Some like it straight up, as we said earlier, right? So shaken in ice. So many different ways. Even just sticking that bottle in a fridge or a freezer and chilling it and pouring it, that's going to change it. So there's so many different ways to drink a whiskey. This is just my way of doing it. I'm not saying that my way is the right way. My way is my way. It's that simple, right?
All that being said, and I've been thinking about this right since I first started my first sip. I think what I would do different, knowing now, right, with this particular brand is I would pour it. I would take sip 1, take sip 2, and then let it sit, and then come back and enjoy the flavor. The flavor we're supposed to be enjoying.
Basically what I just did.
Yeah.
Right. That's and after that, if you want to pour and drink, you've experienced the whiskey.
Yeah.
Now just enjoy it however you want. Right? Now, I want to tell you something else. As you were saying that, I took another sip, and I kept it on the front of my tongue for a second before I took it down. It was vanilla heavy. It was just hey, here I am. I'm vanilla. Good to meet you. I was like, okay. That was not expected. Again, I've had this many times before, but this is one that sometimes I'll mix it, sometimes I'll throw it on the rocks. I'll say this, I'll be transparent. It's not one of my favorite whiskeys. Not that it's bad. It's just I've had better. You know, it's like, let me rephrase that. That doesn't do the whiskey justice. Not that I've had better. I've had others that I prefer more than Dead Rabbit. Good whiskey, again, similar to Great Coast. I think this is good for the beginner, someone that's learning whiskeys like you, because it's not too complex. It does have a few flavors in there. Again, it's low proof, just like the Great Coast as well. If you haven't seen that video, like I said, go click on it. That's good. If we ever do this again, I'm gonna take you up a notch. Don't know what yet, but I'm gonna take you up a notch. You're gonna be like, whoa. So anyway.
I might take you up a notch.
Republic of the Rio Grande. Yeah. So a lot of people have heard Six Flags Over Texas. Not just the theme park, right? There's a theme parks all over the place. Six Flags Over Texas. But Six Flags Over Texas represents all the different countries, including Texas, the Texas flag, that I guess occupied, or I don't know what the right word is, the governments that took over Texas, right? So you have Spain, France, help me out here. There's 6.
Obviously Mexico. Would the Confederates count?
Texas. Gosh, I can't remember all of them.
U.S.
Shame on me for not remembering them all. But there's actually 7 flags over Texas, because the Republic of the Rio Grande, which is a cool flag, by the way, I love the way it looks with the stars and stripes, is not one that is typically recognized. So the Republic of the Rio Grande span just north of what is now the Rio Grande Valley, where we live, into Mexico, south of the border, all the way past Laredo. And Laredo, as a matter of fact, my understanding was the capital of the Republic of the Rio Grande. But it was a very short-lived republic. I want to say it was about a year. I don't remember the exact, but it was like a year.
I don't even remember it being a year.
It might have been less.
Yeah.
So it was very short. Let's put it that way. But Republic of the Rio Grande, if you've never heard of it, look it up. And if you're ever in South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley, there's a good restaurant named the Republic of the Rio Grande in McAllen, Texas.
Not bad.
Check it out.
Not bad.
So, but let's get back to the guerras, right? Okay. So, gosh, how many acres did you say?
43,000.
43,000 acres. That's, again, I can't picture that.
I can't picture that. I can't picture maintaining or managing that much land. I mean, it's easy to go in a property that size. I'll go in 10,000 acres, set up a homestead. Is anybody going to know I'm there? Maybe fire plumes going up, so I have to cook in the morning, right? But, right, that's how do you take care of that? How do you manage that?
This part of the story, what I'm about to ask you, is something that you shared with me already at the ranch. You told me that you guys had 43,000 acres, and then you told me the story of how it was lost, what happened.
Yeah, so not the entire 43,000 acres was lost, but legend, myth, lore, story has it, right, that one of my forefathers needed to take care of his wife, medical bills, so I had to sell part of his property. Well, he didn't actually sell it, but he put it as like a down payment or like his collateral for the money to be able to pay for the medical bills for his wife, right? So when it came down to pay, I mean, that kind of money is kind of hard to come by. So he rode his horse over to San Antonio for a loan. Got the money, secured the loan, rode back home before the deadline, except, not like I said, legend has it, or story or myth or lore, but it's a story that's passed down, that the bank actually closed the doors on him before he could pay, so that he could not pay, so that the owners of the bank could stay with the property.
That is the corruption that I talked about in video number 2. If you haven't seen that video, we talked about our ranch. There was a lot of corruption back then. It was around the same time frame. Yeah. You know, not too far away.
And actually, my forefather was actually convinced to hire a lawyer and pursue the matter, and he did. Except he ended up dropping the case when his lawyer mysteriously disappeared. He was murdered So he was like, you know what?
Wow.
I value the life of myself and my family more than I value that land, so I'm dropping the case. So
that's insane.
He let it go.
I appreciate you sharing that again, because I know it was a lot more detailed this time, so I learned more. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that story, but I want to do something real quick. I want to check my camera and make sure that memory card's that full, because we're talking a lot longer than I thought we were.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be like a 20-minute conversation.
How long has it been?
I think we've been talking for more than an hour, because the sun was out when we started talking.
Yeah, the sun was out.
So let me check that memory card.
That's what whiskey does for you, folks.
Yeah.
Makes time fly. And it's fun.
You want more?
Yeah. That's good stuff. I like it neat. Yeah, I learned something.
This is why I like it too.
Sure.
All right, so that's recording actually. I didn't tell you, but
oh wow,
it's recording. So, I have 1% left on the battery. Memory card was still good.
Hey, timed it just right.
That I was like, like memory card. Lesson number 1 from video number 2. But hey, thanks again for sharing that story, as I was saying. But yeah, we report. Why not? And the reason, one, because it's enjoyable, it's good. I found out right now that he's enjoying it. Actually, that was on video. You said you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
But number 2, you told me a second story.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what that story was?
Yeah.
Please share.
All right. So, on my dad's side, predominantly the family stayed within the Spanish bloodline, right? And I say predominantly because there is some, like on my grandma's side, on my paternal grandma, one of her great grandfathers was French,
okay,
right? Louis de Molay. So
that is a
French
real
guy,
French name, yeah.
Right? On my mother's side, my maternal grandparents, my maternal grandma, Spanish, my maternal grandpa, native Mexican, right? In other words, his bloodline.
So you say native Mexican, technically Native American, because that's the Americas, right?
Yeah.
So natives in Mexico were still considered Native American,
right,
even though it's not the United States of America.
Yeah, so Native American because of the range,
right,
I guess, but now we know it as Native Mexican because now it's Mexico.
Yeah.
But you're right, Native American, right?
So, interesting fact, and those of you that are watching from overseas, I know I got a few followers from overseas already. A lot of Americans from the United States say, I'm from America. But overseas, they say, oh, you're from the Americas. What part? And most Americans think, oh, well, the state they're from. But what a lot of Americans fail to notice is that the Americas goes all the way down to South America.
Mm-hmm.
You have South America, Central America, North America, which is our part of America. So a lot of times people from overseas, different countries, don't know which ones, but you're from America.
Mm-hmm.
What part of America? North, South, or Central?
Yeah.
And to most Americans, it's like, duh, the only one there is.
The only America
the
there is.
USA.
Yeah, no, so my mom did that. I don't know if it's a 23andMe or whatever the DNA thing is, where you send in a swab and they tell you what your ethnicities are, and she came out 50% Native American. And they put in there 50% Native American from Mexico.
There you go.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Yeah.
So sorry I interrupted your story.
problem.
I just thought that was an interesting fact, because I've heard that before, and I was like, I got to make this comment. So, by the way, totally off topic.
Yeah.
On a personal note, I got asked once, well, not asked, a family member critiqued some of my videos and said, you got to quit picking your nose. I'm not picking my nose. I have a dry spot right here that itches. And it itches, and you'll see me do this every now and then, and I'm scratching it. So I've got, what do we call this? Psoriasis? Psoriasis, yeah. I never remember what it's called.
Cirrhosis of the liver.
Yes, eventually. Psoriasis, thank you.
Yeah.
So I've got dry skin on my thumbs that I struggle with, and my nose. I used to have it on all my knuckles, which thankfully has gotten much better. But if you see me scratching, I'm not poking my nose. I apologize if it looks that way. I just have this dry spot that really bugs me, and sometimes it's on the other side. So, but way off topic. I apologize for interrupting your story.
You know, and you were mentioning something about not knowing the regions. So I took a couple of trips to Spain already. And on one of the particular trips that we went to, there was a specific area that we went to where they were growing palm trees. And we were with Juan Carlos and Delia, and God rest his soul. Juan Carlos has recently passed away from cancer. Man, that was tough. It still is tough. I still remember him every day. Good man. So he told us, you know why those palm trees are there? And I said, no, I don't. Those palm trees are there because the men that went to the Americas, to Mexico specifically, married people from Mexico and brought them back to Spain.
Oh, wow.
And so those people grew palm trees in their homes to make the wives feel more at home.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they had a specific name for that specific area, except right now it skips my mind. I do not know what it was called.
Interesting.
I said, wow, that is so cool. I never
If anyone knows, by the way, the place he's talking about, leave it in the comments. We need those comments.
Oh yeah, good point. So and so I never thought about that hey, people went over to Mexico from Spain and they married over there and did business, and then they came back home. Maybe they didn't want to stay, you know. And then of course our family decided to stay. There's probably still some guerras over there, northern Spain somewhere. There's some guerras in Cuba, right? Some more guerras in Mexico, right? So
our buddy Pablo.
Our buddy
He's
Pablo.
Guerra.
He's Guerra. He's a cousin.
But you don't know for certain he's a cousin.
So a Guerra from Stark County is a cousin.
Wait.
One way or another, they're all connected. We are digressing so much.
So you're speaking in general,
broadly speaking.
Not that you know that he is
right.
related.
Not that I know specifically, but
okay.
And so like one Guerra made it from Spain all the way here, right? And then he started a family, and now we're all here.
I see what you're
right?
saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So
I just thought you finally made a connection to where you guys are actually related. Like,
I've got the books, and I'd have to sit down with them and say, okay, this is the stuff the family lineage my dad and my uncle have collected. Okay, do you recognize any of these people? Right? And if he does, start tracing it down.
I think I mentioned this to you when we were back at the ranch on that rabbit hunt, right? So when doing the ranch overview video, which again, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Sorry for all the plugs, but I need views. I was going through my grandmother's old paperwork from the different ranches, and in there I found a last will and testament from, I want to say it's my great-great-grandmother. I might be wrong there. I'll get you the name later if anybody wants to know. But in there, it shows where they left the property to my grandmother and her sister, and it was like over 4,000 acres divided up amongst all these family members. And I started going through all the names, and Guerras came up 3 times.
Wow.
3 times. So what the connections are, I don't know. I mean, are we potentially related? Who knows?
Potentially somewhere down the line.
Was it a friend that they left it to? Because, you know, sometimes they would leave property not only to family members, but to people they were indebted to. It's like, okay, I know I owe you this much. If I pass away, I leave you this piece of land. But if you pass away before me, then this land goes to this other person, right? So that's kind of what that contract read. And it was interesting just to read and see all the names that were on there. I saw so many names that I recognized in our family current state. I saw so many other names. I thought, wow, are they family? And Guerra was one of them. And who knows, maybe that was part of those 43,000 acres. Because it's between here and San Antonio, you said.
Well, no, it's all the area in Stark County. That's 43,000 acres. We're specifically down in that direction. Between the border and where my dad's place is right now.
Gotcha. That's cool. So I interrupted again.
Yeah, we digressed and digressed from the digression and so forth.
It's all good conversation, though, at least for us, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully
not too boring for you guys. Sorry.
Hopefully you guys watching are enjoying it.
Tune in for a whiskey. And
I know Pablo's watching. Rick's probably watching. Who else we got watching? Chewy's probably watching as well. So Frank Villanueva is going to be like, what the heck's going on here? Orly. I haven't mentioned Orly yet. Orly has a little ranch. Little cattle ranch. We need to visit Orly's ranch and introduce his cattle to everyone. I know he has a coyote problem out there. He mentioned coyotes sometimes. Maybe we can go do
we should do some predator hunting there.
Yeah, get some predators out of the picture for him. So Orly, if you're watching, leave some comments there and say, yeah, come on over. Gosh, it's been over an hour. Have you watched this long, Orly? I appreciate it. Anybody that's watched this long, thank you.
Yeah, no kidding.
It. So, but
you have to get back on point.
On point. Where did you leave off before I interrupt you, sir?
So I was explaining to you my dad's side predominantly stayed within the Spanish bloodline.
Right.
My mom's side, so my maternal grandparents, one was Spanish with my grandma, and my grandpa was Native American, right, from Mexico. Right. So he was like literally fit the bill as what you think of as a Native American from Mexico. That's him, right? So he and his mom and brothers and dad we used to live in Mexico, right, down by Reynosa in that region, right, and they would cross the river, right, when he was young to come to the U.S. and go to work, and they go back, and then go back and forth.
Now I want to clarify because I've heard this story before, right? He would illegally cross the river. Right, because you can cross a river illegally.
I guess you're right.
So he would illegally cross the river to come work and make money.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, so illegally crossing everyone together and then go back and forth, right? So it wasn't until he was in his late teens where he was crossing by himself and he got caught. And so they took him up to the bridge, to the border station, and they ran his paperwork, and they asked him, I'm not going to repeat it in Spanish, right, because I don't know who's listening who doesn't know Spanish or whatever, but
I can put subtitles.
They asked him, why are you crossing the river? No. And he said, voy a trabajar, right?
Going to work.
And they said, pero, ¿por qué no cruzas aquí? Right?
So just for the sake of those that don't speak Spanish, so why aren't you crossing through here?
Why aren't you crossing through the bridge?
Through the bridge?
Why are you sneaking across? And he goes, I don't want to get caught. No quiero que me pesquen. So they told him right there and then, you don't have to cross through the water. You can come through the bridge. All right? And he's like, why? Right? Late teens. And they told him, it says here you were born in San Antonio. They're like, what? So his mom, my great grandma, never told my grandpa, you're an American citizen, you can use the bridge if you want.
That's insane.
And mainly because if you got a 2-3-year-old that you're going to cross the river with, you don't send him on the bridge by himself. Right? You take him along with you. So after so many years of doing that, that's what you get used to. So you don't know. That's what you know. You know what you know. And you know to cross the river this way, not through the bridge.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
I cannot relate to it from the personal sense, but I can relate to it in the sense of everything that's going on now. For those that don't know, the town I live in, if I go to the south side of the town and I grab, not one of these stones, but I grab a stone and chunk it, I will hit Mexico.
Yeah.
That's how far south we live.
That's a quick side story though. One time I almost fell into the river. Growing up, I lived less than a quarter of a way from the river. And my buddy, one of my best friends, he lived like from here to that fence line from the river.
For context, that's about 30 yards. 30, nah, it's 30
yards?
40. Yeah,
30, 40 yards?
So I do some archery shooting from here to there. It's actually 42.
Okay.
From this fence to the, not the fence, but where the flag is painted.
Oh, okay, cool. Then you got about 30 yards, or
42.
Yeah. We lived around about approximately that close to the river, right? So we'd go and walk around and just explore the bank of the Rio Grande. And one time I put my foot on the edge like this, and it gave way. And mind you, I was in elementary at this time. I was maybe not even in 5th grade yet. It gave way, so my right foot went into the river, and I went down, and I was thinking, holy smokes, that's it, I'm done. This leg alone kept me from falling in the river.
Oh, wow.
I pushed back this way and and came like never again. Because it's deep at that point. So
I've never been in the river, so I will take your word for that.
Yeah, but that part is really deep. So, yeah.
Man, that is insane. That's a lot of stories. So I got a lot more detail. Again, we've been chatting for over an hour now, I think. We went through one battery. We're in the second battery. Way longer than I thought we were going to talk, So I really appreciate everything you've given us. I'm more than happy to stay and keep talking, but I think our viewers may have had enough at this point. Yeah. So I'd like to tell everybody, you know what? Thanks for watching this far. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments. If you'd like to give Albert some information on some of the stuff he didn't know, right? He's got some family history that he doesn't know there. Just leave it there. If you know some of that, leave it in the comments. Let us know if you like this, because if you like this, we will definitely do more. Maybe not Albert and I, but we can bring some of the other friends in, or maybe we can bring multiple friends, because we've got some really interesting characters in our group. And yeah, we can talk everything from, I don't want to say politics, because I don't want to get into that these things, but we can talk about
the border,
we can talk about ranches, we can talk about aliens. Ooh, speaking of aliens, have you watched my last video yet? Go click on that if you like space. That's all I'll say. If you haven't watched it, go click on it. Check it out. But I really appreciate everything you've shared, sir. Hopefully you've enjoyed this dead rabbit.
I've enjoyed this dead rabbit.
Not the rabbit that we were looking for, but definitely
soon we will enjoy real dead rabbits.
If you haven't seen it yet, there's a video that hasn't published yet, but there is a rabbit hunt where we were successful.
Oh, nice.
It's a catch, clean, cook. Although we didn't show the cleaning on that one for a couple of reasons. It's more of an Easter video, ironically. But we did get a rabbit. So if you haven't seen that one, again, that one should be up before this one. Go click on that one as well.
Was it laying eggs?
It was not laying eggs.
Good. It wasn't the Easter bunny.
It was laying in the yard. So thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Cheers. And if you haven't tried dead rabbit, give it a try. Let me know what you think. And if you don't like it, send it to me. I'll finish it for you. No problem. See you guys next time when we're back at the ranch. I appreciate it.